I'm Laura Rohde with Sarasota Gulf Coast Realtors, and today on Real Estate Buying and Selling 101, I'm interviewing Cindy Clark, estate planning and probate attorney in Sarasota. Cindy, thanks so much for being here with me today. I know a lot of our clients are going to find what you have to say very useful.
Well, I hope so. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about the probate process and what it looks like for the heirs and a potential buyer.
Okay. So when somebody dies owning real estate in their individual name, the only way to get that property transferred to their heirs is through the probate process. And a lot of people have some misconceptions about probate, what it is, what it entails. And basically, probate, when it's all boiled down, is nothing more than a legal proceeding for the orderly distribution of assets and the payment of the decedent's debts. Decedent is the deceased person.
Correct.
And the probate process here in Florida can take generally 6 to 9 months with all parties playing nicely together. If they don't play nicely together, it can take substantially longer.
Okay.
The real estate, if the person died with a will, their executor, what we call a personal representative in Florida, generally speaking, the will give the personal representative the power to sell real estate, which is a nice thing. But if the decedent did not have a will when they died, then the probate is handled through what we call the intestacy process.
Okay.
Somebody is appointed the personal representative. It may or may not be who the person would have chosen for their, if they'd made the choice.
Right.
And then there is no power to sell real estate that way. They have to, the personal representative has to petition the court, the judge,
Okay.
to sell a particular piece of real estate at a particular price. And the judge has to approve it, so there's a delay there. That generally comes into play with investment property. In other words, not the homestead
Okay.
of the deceased person. It gets more complicated when it's the homestead. So generally speaking, there could be a potential delay with investment property because you have to get that judge's order saying it's okay if there is no will, or the will does not give the personal representative that legal power to sell real estate.
Right.
Homestead puts another glitch in things. Homestead, we have a lot of legal protections for our homestead property in Florida. And because of that, it's very important for it to keep that designation throughout the homestead process.
Okay.
It's important to the heirs because it protects that property from the deceased person's creditors. And it's important to title companies when they want to make sure that title is clean, I hate to say clean, I don't know if that's a technical term, but that the title, there's no questions about the legality of the title.
Correct.
Who owns the property.
Right.
Okay?
Yes.
And to do that, there's only one way to do that, is to get a judge, again, we have to go back to the judge, to sign what we call an order determining the homestead status of real property.
Wow.
We shorten that down to homestead order.
Right.
But the point of the matter is, there's a certain point in the probate process before you can even ask the judge for that order. And generally speaking, again, with a probate that's pretty smooth, everybody's playing along nicely, generally speaking, we don't have that order for 5 months after the probate has been opened.
So it's a lengthy process for sure.
It's a lengthy process, and until we get that magical homestead order, most of the time nobody's going to close on that house. So it's important for the real estate agents involved to understand the process, to understand this isn't something that happens overnight.
Right.
It's important for the buyers. If you're buying a piece of property that is in a probate, or is potentially subject to probate, because sometimes people don't know that when they
Correct.
go to put the house on the market. And for the sellers, they have to realize it could be 5 months down the road before they can put the house on the market. Well, actually, I'm going to step back. You can actually put the house on the market a little bit before that, but you can't. Most title companies won't let you close
Right.
until you have that order.
Correct.
And if there's a delay, you could be looking at longer than that.
Longer than 6 months.
Right, it
Yeah.
could be. It just kind of depends.
So Cindy, while the sellers are waiting for that homestead order and taking it through that probate process, who is in charge of paying the insurance, taxes, HOA? Who's responsible for that?
That would be the seller. So the seller, during that whole time, they're responsible for maintaining the house, paying somebody to mow the lawn, the pool, paying the HOA fees, insurance, all of that. So yes, it's a financial burden to the seller during that time, which is why it's extremely important that when you are doing your estate planning, that if you don't want to burden your children with having to pay all of that out of their own pockets, that your estate plan puts aside money that they can use to make these payments while the house is getting ready to be sold.
Absolutely. Now, if the sellers were not going to pay those fees because they either didn't know or didn't have the funds, what happens then and how does it affect a buyer?
Generally speaking, a lot of times the house could end up going into foreclosure, which is not pleasant. Now, it could be because the HOA fees fall behind.
Right.
It could be because there's a mortgage payment not getting paid. You could also potentially lose your insurance on the house, which creates a lot of new problems there.
Right.
So there's a lot of not pleasant things that can happen if all those things are not being paid. Now, I will just mention the foreclosure process is extremely lengthy. Generally, it takes longer for a foreclosure than a probate.
And about how long?
Foreclosure, sadly, in Florida, a lot of people, it won't actually get to court for about a year.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
a long time. So it sounds like it's super important to make sure that all of your estate planning is done, especially if you're in the type of situation where you need something like that. Is estate planning, that's something that you do, and if somebody was interested in contacting you, how can they reach you?
Oh, absolutely. Again, my name's Cindy Clark. I'm with the law offices of Cynthia M. Clark, and my number is 941-444-5958, and my website is www.cmclarklaw.com.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.